thanks so much for having me, Holly. Going back all the way to 2014, I was speaking at a conference and talking about how isolating our roles as EAs and PAs can be. And from that, I sort of put the word out to a few people and said, hey, let's meet up, have coffee. Let's, talk about our roles, because nobody really understands an EA role better than another EA. And my friends didn't really understand what I was talking about when I was, explaining the frustrations that I was having and, pieces of work that I could improve on. So having put the word out, a few people came back to me and said, would love to catch up. Can I bring a friend? Yep, great, no problem. A few weeks later, we met up in someone's boardroom. A few of us bought some bottles of wine, and we didn't really know what to do, to be honest. We sort of just stood around in a circle and introduced ourselves, and from there, it's really grown into this super supportive and creative group that allows people to be able to connect with each other and inspire each other. Really, we all sort of have that common goal of wanting to better ourselves and wanting to learn more and from each other. And so, 6 years on, we've got over 1,200 members, and it's turned into this it's Melbourne, the largest networking group for executive assistants in Melbourne, which is a pretty huge achievement without even thinking that it was going to go there. But it certainly did, and it blew up into this. It became very obvious that people needed. There was a hole in our industry, and that was filled very quickly by the Melbourne EA Group.
Congratulations on 6 years. Isn't that crazy to think that that session in the boardroom and people introducing each other was 6 years ago, and it's evolved into what you've created today? Amazing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, actually. I think about the last 6 years, and in that I've had, a few different roles. I've moved businesses or companies, and I've had children, I've moved house. I've done lots of great things within my personal life as well as my professional life, and that journey and being able to have all these people with me along for the ride has been really incredible. And to look back at it and think that, all I wanted to do was just create a couple of friends, and now I've got over 1,000 of them. So that's a pretty great achievement without actually thinking or knowing that it was going to turn into what it is. It's pretty good to look back on.
It's pretty awesome. I'd love to know, some of the stories from each of the people who've been part of it throughout the years, the impact it's had on them. Because I know for me, I've spent a little bit of time looking back and go, man, like this group have had friends and mentors and just so much has come as a result of it. It'd be pretty amazing to get that from everybody else too.
Yeah, some of the feedback has been pretty overwhelming at times. There's a particular member who I remember started, and she didn't really speak to anybody, was a bit of a shell, in her own little shell, which, sometimes people are when they meet others for the first time. And there was no judgment, and there never is any judgment on that sort of part. Some people take longer to get to know each other, and this particular person, she, now is the life of the party, and everybody knows her and everybody loves her. And she told me that I changed her life completely, and that's something that is almost at times, I think, it can be hard to take on board, thinking that, I've actually changed somebody's life for the better. Like, really? Did I really do that? I think you did that. And so, no, it was you. It was all you. So that's the feedback that you get from some people, and the changes that you do see in people, and being able to go on the journey with them is pretty incredible.
That is amazing. Amazing. So had you, prior to Melbourne EA Group starting, had you been part of any other groups or seen the impact that a group like that can have on people?
I hadn't, actually, and I guess that's the reason why I sort of put the word out and said to other people, like, I didn't know that these sorts of things existed. And then obviously along the journey, I've sort of realised that, yeah, there are other groups. They might be national groups or other groups within different states, but I didn't actually realise that I was going to create a network group. I just thought that I wanted to meet a couple of people and sort of learn from them. I had this really big dream, and I still do, of, I guess the biggest reason as to why I started this was I wanted to be the best of the best. I wanted to be that household name that somebody said, oh, I need an EA, and then someone goes, you need Carmel Bond. That's what I wanted. I wanted people to know how great I was within my job, and for people to recognise that. And so from that, I just wanted to learn. I wanted to get to know other people and say, hey, I've been tasked with this. Can you help me? Or I don't know what I'm doing. Is somebody able to show me what they do, and just learn from that? So yeah, it's pretty awesome to know that now I've sort of created this hub of people who can do the same thing, and you know, I still come back to that dream of being the best of the best, and you know, that's sort of taken me into other parts of my life as well. And yeah, it's pretty. I don't often, I guess I do sort of look back and think how it all started to where it is now, and it's a pretty awesome to look back at it. But I never had any thought that I was going to create a network group. It just sort of happened organically, and that's another testament to all the members as well. They've sort of talked about it and got other people on board, and it sort of created itself. This network group created itself. So yes, I obviously had a big part of it, but it wasn't, I didn't start this with the intention of creating a group. So I didn't actually know any of these things existed. So yeah, but now obviously I do, and I encourage people to join as many groups as they can, get to know as many as people as they can, network. It's so important for our professional life, and it does so many great things for ourselves and our careers. It's you just never know who you're going to meet, and it's such a realistic saying, to be honest.
I could not agree with you more. I just wholeheartedly believe that networking piece just is a game changer, personally and professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and does, like, you just, I know I've said it before, but you really don't know who you're going to meet. And from these, from meeting people, I know that some have changed roles because we've said to them, what are you doing? Like, you're better than this, and you can get into it, you get into something else, and somebody says, hey, I know this, or I know such and such, or there's a role going here, and then before you know it, they've changed roles and they're so much happier. So and that's just one example of what can happen through networking, but some great partnerships and some really great supportive pieces can come out of it. So I encourage people to do it as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so now that it's evolved and we're 6 years down the track, I'm curious, as I think about where you are now, and we'll go into that a little bit more, had you had ambitions to like run a business or something like that in the past?
Not really. I have pretty big career goals that I always wanted to get into. I guess I sort of fell into administration work by default. At the time, I was at university and you know, doing uni things, and before I knew it, I had to end up coming home from a family issue that, you know, drove me back into Melbourne, because I was out in Ballarat learning at the TAFE there. So I came back to Melbourne and started, you know, the first job that I could find was an admin traineeship. And I remember only earning like, I don't know, $320 a week or something. And I thought that was amazing at the age of, you know, 18. I had no idea that, you know, it could turn into something. And then from that, I just sort of grew and then realized, hey, this is, you know, maybe this is the path that I want to go down. And from that, have now, you know, gotten to a position where I can actually move more into an operational side of things, and that, you know, it's opened up so many different opportunities for me. And yeah.
Was there a time, or can you think of when it turned into, yes, you've been working in it and creating it, and now I actually have to work on it and be outside of it as like a business owner? Can you think of when that started to happen, or you realized that, hang on, this is actually something more than I realized?
Yeah, I think that it really comes back down to the members, because I was doing everything for people for free. I was organising all of the events for nothing. People would turn up for nothing. You know, there was no monetizing of any of this. So and so many people said to me, your time and your energy is worth so much more, and you really need to start putting in some membership fees. And a lot of people said that to me for at least 12 months before I even took the step. And then secretly I started working on creating a website and a membership platform that had, you know, events and newsletters and things that I could do all encompassed to one place. And so I started working on this, and it took me about 6 months to roll it out, or to be able to create it all. So I've created the website, I've created everything myself. I've got no marketing background. I had no idea what I was doing, whether it looked any good. I kind of showed a few people and they were like, yeah, it looks fantastic. And I was like, great, I'll just take their word for it. So, and that's kind of still happened to this day. So, no, I didn't really understand any of the business side, had no idea what to do. So I just sort of looked up, you know, how to start a business, what do I need? So I started getting ABN numbers, and I registered my name, and then I had to get a bank account, and it was all just really like, oh, do I really want to do this? This is really crazy. And then I did it, and it was actually really easy in the end. And we had a big launch. Our very first admin professionals day breakfast was the launch of the website and the platform, and therefore the membership fees, and that's how that came in. So then I guess the business side started. So that's been running for about 4 years now, but I've learned so much along the way. I had absolutely no idea about how to run a business, but at the same time I'd been working for small businesses and had all the idea of how to run a small business for someone else, but not for myself. So it was a very different feeling. But now I still think that I'm learning along the way. I've had to go down the path of trademarking because somebody was, you know, threatening the business, and I was like, oh my God, is this really what this is all about? So it kind of freaked me out a few times, but no, it was it's so much easier now that you get used to it after a while. But yeah, I had absolutely no idea, and sometimes I still think I don't have any idea either. But you know, it's one of those learning things, and that's the other thing. Now I can throw under my belt, well, I'm a business owner, I know how to do that. So yeah,
they're like two really different skill sets, but you probably can't know that until you actually take the steps to begin the business journey.
Yeah, and you kind of don't realize the expenses of what happens. So not only is it my time, so I worked out that everything that I was doing for nothing over the time that I'd done it for nothing, it was costing my time and my energy and my own expenses as well, almost like $30,000 to $40,000. And I was like, okay, maybe I really should monetize this. And so that's sort of what brought in the membership fees, and that sort of sits in its own little account where it just pays for little bits and pieces, some events that we have to pay for, and those sorts of things. So that helps monetize all of that and be able to do the great events that we do. But it's not something that I can say, hey, I'm a business owner and this is awesome and I'm financially free. It's not it at all. And that I quickly learned that there's so much more expense to running a business than, you know, being this person that people look up to and have, you know, this lifestyle. That's absolutely not me. I still have to work full time. So
yeah. Are there any other sort of standout lessons that Carmel now could tell Carmel then, and just say, hey girl, you might want to watch this, or this is something you probably need to know?
Yeah, I think I would probably go back and say, you know what, do a bit more research, understand exactly what you're getting yourself into, know that this is something that you can't just walk away from. Not that I've ever thought, hey, I just want to walk away, I don't want to do this anymore, but more so around, you know, what are other people doing? Is there anything else in the market that is, you know, can be seen as a competitor? I didn't know any of that, so I was just going for it. And then I sort of had all these people come to me and go, hey, I do this as well, or, you know, found some competitors that, you know, weren't that enthusiastic. So you know, there's those little bits and pieces, but I guess you're going to find that with all competitors, and you know, you can either collaborate or not. And some chose not to collaborate with us, even though we were really open to it, or I was really open to it. And that's another thing, like, I guess just knowing that there are some letdowns, and it's not all, you know, peaches and flowers, and, you know, it's not, there is a bit of a journey to it. So I guess maybe be a little bit more thick-skinned as well. I think I sort of fell into that overwhelmed, oh my God, what am I doing? Rather than, hey, you're a strong woman, you can do this, and, you know, there's no reason why you couldn't. So yeah, I'd probably go back and just say toughen up a bit.
There's an onslaught coming.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you kind of have supported yourself through that, because you're a busy woman. You've got heaps going on, businesses, full-time work, mama, wife, you know, so many things. How do you make sure that you're looking after yourself and making sure that you do feel powerful and that you're capable and got it all?
Yeah, so I guess I'd love to have more than 24 hours in one day. Unfortunately, I only have 24 to work with, but I still sort of, one of the great things about myself and that I know about myself is that time management is my jam. Like, I'm so good at it. I can still work a full-time job from, you know, 9 to 5, leave at 5 o'clock, do what I need to do with the kids. And, you know, a day in the life is getting up at 6, doing some workouts, then some exercising, and then, you know, jumping in the shower, getting the kids ready, making lunches, getting one off to school, one off to childcare, back to work until, you know, 5 o'clock, maybe have a lunch break if I, you know, can fit it in. And then from, you know, 5 till 7 is all kids, you know, bathing, feeding, reading books and playing and those sorts of things. And then, you know, from 7:30, 8 o'clock until maybe 10 o'clock at night, I'm back working on the other 2 businesses that I've got. So, and that's, you know, you just sort of make the time for things. If you really enjoy it, it doesn't really feel like it's a burden, and I haven't felt like that at all, and it just sort of works out really well. I'm very lucky to have a very supportive husband. My daughter is now, so she's 8, and she's now starting to realize what I do, which is really cool, because she sort of looks up to me like, oh wow, you're really doing this awesome stuff. And that's a really nice feeling to have when you have children, and for these little humans to look at you that, you know, you've created, you know, in awe of what you're doing. And everything I do is for them. So, you know, making sure that, for me, other than the family, my full-time job is my number one priority, because that pays the bills realistically. Then the other 2 are, you know, just some fun things or the bonus things that I get to do. But I'm pretty good at managing my time. So your work-life balance is super important, and making sure that you do take time for yourself and looking after yourself, and, you know, that's really important as well. So yeah,
nice. Where does the work ethic come from?
It's interesting, because I growing up, I never really had a very good relationship with my mum. My father was a mechanic. My mum, of all things, was a funeral director. And she was, so in a way, she was very emotionless because of the work that she did. She sort of had to be really emotionally aware of other people before herself. So she sort of blocked all of that out. And I think that sort of had an impact on our relationship. But I always remember her getting dressed in the morning, looking super nice with a suit on. She'd have this big overcoat on and her briefcase, and she'd go off to work. And I always thought to myself, that is the epitome of a businesswoman, and I'm going to be that one day. And so even though we didn't have a great relationship, I sort of looked up to her in a way that she probably didn't realize, and maybe I didn't realize until I got into it myself. But yeah, I remember going for my very first corporate job at Colliers International when I was like 21, and the guy at the time said to me, oh, you know, why do you want this job? And I said, I want to be the woman that my mum was. And I explained it to him, and he was like, oh, okay, sure. And then ended up getting that role and thinking that, you know, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to dress really nicely and be this important woman, even though I was just a department secretary, where I was like the lowest on the food chain. But, you know, it was nice to think that, that's where, you know, she worked really hard. She managed a lot of branches, so she was quite an important person in her industry, and everyone knew her. She'd been doing it for 30, 40 years, so you know, she's very well respected, and that's what I wanted. So and my father, he was a mechanic. He worked 5 days a week for somebody else, and then he'd work on the weekends for other people doing cash jobs or something like that. So he worked 7 days a week up until the age of 72, when he sadly passed away. But you know, it's one of those things where he didn't do it because he had to. He did it because he loved what he did, and he loved cars, and you could just see it in him when he was talking about it. And you know, that, so I think from both parts of my parents is where it really came in. You know, the businesswoman for my mum, and the work ethic more so probably for my dad, where you work hard. And I was taught very early on that you have to work to make money, and you have to have money to pay bills, and if you want the independent life that you have, then you need to do it on your own. And so I was out of home at the age of 17, and you know, paying my own bills and doing my own things. So yeah, it was ingrained in me very, very early on. My father was a very strict man. I wasn't allowed to leave the house until I'd finished high school, or I was 18. And the day I turned 18, he was like, all right, you're 18, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, oh, what do I do? So, yeah, it was a pretty early upbringing with, you know, traditional parents of, you know, don't do this, you're not allowed to do this, and make sure you do this. So, yeah, I think that's where it all comes from.
Yeah, amazing. A nice combination of both. And then now it's brought this woman that is in front of us today. Like, you're one of the most modest people that I know. Every time you can update about what's going on in your life, it's just like, this has happened. And I go, what do you mean, Carmel? This is amazing. Today I thought I'm probably at some point going to want to really pump your tires up, and you're going to be uncomfortable with it. However, I won't do it now.
And that's one of the things about growing into these sorts of positions in your life, or these, you know, these timelines or milestones of your life, where back in the day, maybe 6 years ago when I started this, somebody would say, oh, you're doing such a great job. And I'd be like, oh, thank you. Like, I didn't really know how to take a compliment. Whereas now someone says, oh, what a great event. Thanks so much for organising. No worries. That's fine. You know, yeah, I did do good. These people are enjoying themselves. They're connecting with each other, and the friendships that I've seen that have been formed is unbelievable. And just to know that I was the reason as to why that happened is quite a humbling feeling. And I've sort of grown now to accept compliments and just say thank you, and you know, take it on board and really let it sink in. But yeah,
I love to hear you owning that success and the impact. It's amazing. I love that so much. Now, have there been any other, you know, inspiring women or men along the way, like your mum and dad, that you've learnt from or that have had a significant impact on you?
Yeah, I think when in my mid-20s, I travelled over in the US for a snow season or two, and came back to Australia and had nothing, like no money, no job, no nothing. So I thought, hey, let's go back to school. And so I did. And I did an event management diploma, and one of my teachers was in the music industry, and all of my friends were musos and that sort of thing. So that I sort of looked up to her for that reason. And she managed a whole bunch of people, Claire Bowditch and Jess McAvoy, and all these really cool people that I was like, oh wow, okay, this is all right. And so she ended up giving me a bit of a cash job on the side. I won't tell her name, otherwise she might get in trouble. But I remember, you know, working every single summer days, all of those festivals, doing all of the staging, decor, and all that sort of stuff. And I loved it, and I was so ingrained in it. And you know, she had all these contacts that were just, you know, go to this person's place, and this was like, oh my God, you want me to go to their house? This is incredible. Like, so I thought that was just like living the dream. And then, you know, she was really, I guess, inspirational from a work ethic as well. Like, she was a really hard worker. She knew what she wanted. she was very down the line, very honest, you know, very straight up. So I sort of tried to take on as much of that, and really enjoyed working with her. But in terms of my career, and I've never really had, I don't know whether this is a good or bad thing, but I've never really had any other EAs or anyone to look up to once I sort of got into that field. It wasn't, I'm not, I don't know, again, whether this is a good or bad thing, but I'm not one to go and research other people and follow them on, you know, socials or whatever, and really get ingrained in other people's stuff. I just sort of do my own sort of thing. I don't sort of follow many people, and I guess maybe I could do more of it, but I don't have the time. So, you know, you sort of fall into just people that you meet along the way, and there's been many people, mentors that I've had who have completely changed my life. I've worked with Jane Benston, who is one of my leadership mentors, and she completely changed the way I looked at my career and what I was doing, and my confidence. And yeah, so there have been people along the way, but hasn't really been industry specific. But yeah, I guess maybe I should probably research a bit more, but like I said, I'm just so time poor, I just don't have time for that. So I'm really all about doing my own thing, really.
Yeah, I can see the benefit in that too, because there's a lot to get lost in and distracted by. However, I mean, you've got the smarts and the wisdom yourself to go at it, and you've kind of shown that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really follow her, but I forget her, Zoe Blake, Hamish Blake's wife. So I remember seeing her at a 9 to Thrive Business Chicks conference, and she sat up on the stage and they were like, "Oh, what's your business plan?" And she's like, "What? I don't have a business plan." And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's me. I don't have a business plan." And she just did everything off the fly. And I kind of feel like I'm a bit the same. Like, I've just done things that have worked. If it didn't work, I didn't do it again. If it did work, then I did more of that, and took on board all the feedback from the members, what they wanted. And that's the thing, like, especially with a network group, you want to make sure that your members are involved and feel like they're being heard. So I just listened to what they were telling me and started doing the things that they wanted, and made sure that, you know, any of my communications went out and said, "Hey, tell me what you want and I'll organize it," you know. And I have been doing that, and it's obviously been successful, because people then turn around and go, "Oh, what a great event," and they talk to somebody else. And then, you know, it's those times when you send out newsletters or event invitations where you see an influx of new members coming, because people are going, "Hey, you got to come to this," or "Check this out, this is really cool," or "This is what I was telling you about." And, you know, so that sort of grows from there organically, and that's a really great thing too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your newest creation that has been born?
Yes, so I should have introduced myself as, "Hey, I'm Carmel Bond and I don't know how to say no." So it came to me, I joined up with a great friend of mine, Jordan Leask, who is, he works for a company called Tickstar, and the Tickstar Group have a range of businesses through the marketplace industry. And he said to me, well, actually, I said to him, "Look, we're always looking for products and services, and it's so annoying opening up, you know, there's that meme that says, my life is like an internet browser. I've got 39 tabs open, 3 are frozen, and I don't know where the music's coming from." Like, that's totally our life. So I said to him, "Let's try and do something to really solve this problem." So we came up with Connect EA, which is an exclusive destination for executive and personal assistants to be able to find products and services in a really quick and easy way. And so if you go on to www.connectea.com.au, you can be anyone really and find any product or service that, you know, your boss might say to you, "Hey, it's Helen's birthday, can you get her some flowers?" "Yeah, sure." So you jump on and you can buy everything on the site. You don't have to leave and go off to an external site or anything like that. If there's something that you're looking for and you can't find it, we also have a concierge service that can come in and search for things for you. So if you say, "Hey, I need a private dining room for 10 people on this date with this budget," we'll get back to you with, you know, 3 quotes in 24 hours, and you know, you can choose where you want to go, and we'll set it all up for you. So or we'll put you in contact with the people that you need to be. So it's a really cool, I think it's really cool. I don't know how nobody else has created this before, but we seem to be the only ones that are doing it. And And that's a really cool thing too, to know that, you know, we're the first ones in the industry doing something like this and being able to provide that great service for people, and making things easier, because our roles of wearing many hats is can be quite time consuming, and being able to take that away from you and say, hey, I can handle that, give it to me, and, you know, that's one less thing that we have to worry about. So yeah, it's a really cool thing. I'm really excited about it. So we just launched in November last year, and it's going great guns. It's we've got some really great partners, some really great businesses online, and yeah, it's a really cool, again, another very different experience from creating Melbourne EA Group, and just another thing that I can put under my belt and say, hey, I did that. So yeah.
Awesome. Do you feel better placed, or like you've got a little bit more insight into how you might build this business, or do you feel like, yeah, you're kind of better placed to be able to drive this one forward?
Yeah, absolutely. This time is the first time where I've actually, you know, done something with somebody else. So it's not just all about me and me being able to motivate myself to drive this. So I have a partner. We also have a team of people behind us. We're getting to the point where we can onboard some people to help us with some BDM. So I know that being able to lean on other people is really important, and, you know, having a good team of people that you trust. I completely trust my partner 100%. I'm trusting with my life. So being able to have that is really important, I think, because something can come through and I go, hey, can you check this out for me? Or, you know, do we need to do this? And it's like, yeah, cool, it's fine, we'll sort it, don't worry. And it's like, oh, other people can do this for me. This is kind of nice. So yeah, it's I would say it's a much better experience when you have somebody else to help you. But taking on something, you know, on your own can be very, very overwhelming. So yeah, that's been a really great base for us to be able to have a team of people to, or the first time I've had a team of people to help. So that's really cool.
It is really cool. I am curious though, for someone who's so good at doing everything herself, has there been times where it's been difficult to let go or to allow yourself to work well with a partner or team?
Yeah, totally. So I'm finding that with our marketing partners at the moment. I've always been the, you know, especially with Melbourne EA Group, I've done everything myself. I've organised the events, I've advertised the events, I've done all the socials, done all the marketing, done everything on my own. So there have been some people that have helped along the way, but it's majority of the work has all been with me. So that's meeting people and, you know, getting it all set up, setting up all the invites that go out, doing all the graphics and all of that stuff. So coming up with the wording of how to try and sound really cool but not be cheesy, and, you know, make people want to come to stuff and not go, oh, what's that? So you know, now being able to well, now with Connect EA, it's we've got a marketing partner who's able to do all the social stuff, and I'm finding it really hard to go. I keep saying to them, "Oh, just send me the stuff, and I'll just post it." And they're like, "You know what, Carmel? This is what we're here for. You send us, or we'll send you what we want to put on. You approve it, and we'll do the rest." And it's like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll try." So yeah, letting go is a really hard thing, especially when you've been doing something on your own for so long. And I think the help that I have had with the Melbourne EA Group along the way, they've probably found that I've found that really hard as well. And I guess because I'm the only one that knows the login details, I'm the only one that knows how to use the system, all of that stuff. And sometimes you just think to yourself, this would be so much quicker if I just did it myself, until you do. But yeah, I'm finding it a little bit tricky to let go of some things.
Fair enough. Yeah. And do you think that it gives you a deeper understanding of how to be a better EA or be a better partner with your exec or in your full-time job?
Yeah, totally. Because most of the time, somehow I've had a knack of getting into roles where the exec hasn't never had an EA before. So it might be like a small business or a startup business, and they've been the same as me. It's just doing everything themselves. And it's kind of like, no, we've got to sit down and go, all right, what do you do? What can I take from you? And being able to teach somebody to let go, and then now realizing that I have to let go, I'm sort of in that position where I'm like, well, duh, you've been in this position before. Just let it go. You know it's going to get done. But then I guess the EA in us are, you know, that control freak comes out, and we want to make sure it all gets done right. So it's a bit of a mix, but yeah, I can totally see what it's like from each side now, and understanding that it's easier for us as EAs to take that stuff on, but it's probably a little bit harder for other people to let go. And there has to be a balance there, and you have to be able to create trust, and that's a big thing, obviously, with an EA role, is creating that trust and going, no, you know what, I can actually do this, and look, let me show you. Oh, okay. So
yeah, I think you've demonstrated again, how different it is to observe something happening and see it and understand it, but then actually having the experience yourself and feeling it, and it's quite different.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is like being able to work for somebody and know how to run their business, but then having your own, and then thinking, I don't think I really know how to run a business, and putting some of the past experience into play for yourself is very different to doing it for someone else, because you have this extra level of control that sort of comes in and go, all right, well, this is now my reputation on the line, not theirs. It's easy to make somebody else look good, but I think it's much harder, definitely much harder, to make yourself look good, especially when, coming from my background, I have a history of not being the most confident person in myself and believing in myself, and that comes with experience. But even I had to do all the public speaking when I started the group, and getting up in front of people, made me feel sick. Whereas now I'm really excited. I can't wait to get back in front of people, and I'd rather speak in front of a group of 500 people than I am walking. I'm still that person that says, oh, okay, I'll meet you at that restaurant. Can you come outside and meet me? Because I don't want to go in on my own. Like, it's so strange. But so it's great. It's a great experience, and it just, that'll come in time for people. And but yeah, it's really cool to see both sides of each experience. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious about now where you are, in front of us right now, how you were able to find how to bring you to your business. So you talked about the copy, and you talked about being able to show up, and now that you're able to speak on stage and enjoy it, how do you think you've been able to bring Carmel Bond to what you do, as opposed to just doing the tasks? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think hopefully this answers your question, but I think especially with the Melbourne EA Group, because it's all been done from me and all on my own, I have to be the one to do it. I have no choice. And now that we have membership fees and all that sort of stuff, I have a responsibility to provide people what I've told them that they're going to get in their membership. So putting these events on, and it's the right thing to introduce the people. Like, for example, if you're showcasing a venue, you've got to introduce the people, and you sort of, at first I was forgetting people's names. I was like, oh my God, I've just talked to this person, I've spoken to them on email millions of times, and I'm like, hi, this is, I've forgotten. So you just sort of, definitely there's those times, and there has been those times, and still sometimes I look at people and go, I know your name, but I can't remember it. And now I feel really overwhelmed. And then you get these hot flushes, and you're like, oh my God, I'm dying. Just let me go and die in peace. So, I still have those moments, absolutely. But I think because I've had to do it all on my own, I've been pushed out of comfort zones so many times that it's like, well, I have to do it. There's nobody else that I can rely on. So you just sort of suck it up and do it. And after a while, it's sort of become one of my favorite things to do. And I'm such a people person that I actually really enjoy speaking to people. I don't necessarily like talking on the phone. I hate texting. I just rather get in front of you and say, hey, how you going? Like, tell me about your role. Tell me about your job. What are you doing? What are you loving? What are you hating? Like, just talk to me. I really love it. And I think that sort of oozes out into other people, and they sort of really enjoy that and feed off that vibe, and it just creates this buzz in a room that's really cool. So I think it's just sort of one of those things that you're either gonna love it or you hate it. But I've done it so many times that now I've just learned to love it.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
Hopefully that answers your question.
It does. I think there's so much about what you've shared throughout our conversation is I just did it. Like, I had to do it. I wasn't perfect at the start, but now I've gotten so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all with growth and personal growth. I've really learned to take people's constructive feedback on board. And I had a mentor who said to me, feedback is not failure. Feedback is growth. And so I've always thought to myself, well, if someone doesn't like something, well, it's not me personally. They just didn't like that particular thing. So change it up and do something better next time. That's all you can do. You can only just try and improve on yourself. And it all comes back to wanting to be, the best of the best. And the only way you can do that is to open yourself up to improvement. And actually had my half-year review for my full-time role yesterday and sat there and said, is there anything I can improve on? And they were like, not really. And I'm like, come on, really? There's got to be something. And one little thing came out of it, and I was like, oh, okay, great, that's awesome. I'll work on that.
Yeah.
It's negative, but it's only with the negatives that we can turn into positives. And I'm not so much a positive thinker as to, oh, this is a really bad situation, because for me, a bad situation is, and I start freaking out. It's more about knowing that there's something that didn't quite work and being able to change that and make it work next time. And just learning from all of your past mistakes is really important. And I think that's an important part of being able to grow both personally and professionally.
Yeah. What is one of your biggest lessons from COVID from last year?
Oh, one of my biggest lessons. I actually learned a lot about myself, that I'm much more resilient than I thought I was. Lots of people were saying that they were having a really hard time with COVID, and they were spending so much time at home and not being able to go out. So it was hard because I couldn't get out to these social things and see people. But at the same time, I just took it on board and go, all right, we're going to stay home. That's cool. That's just kids. You can go out in their backyard, but that's it. We have to do everything inside now. And I sort of took that on, and I thought I'd be a bit more depressed about it, but I totally wasn't. So, and from that, during COVID, I created a whole nother business. So for me, there were lots of positives that came out of that. I think, I don't know, I don't think there's any huge things that come up to me and say, hey, this was what COVID was all about. It hasn't really hit me like that.
No, it sounds like a brilliant lesson. And especially through this conversation, it's like, yes, you are incredibly resilient. It's just because it's so in your nature to just get on with it. It's probably difficult to see within yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly been some really tough times in my life, and I've just sort of had to suck it up and keep going and not, this might be a bit of a sad story, but I think about the time when my father passed away, and he was my hero. He was everything to me. And at the time I had a very, my son was only 6 or 7 months and I was still breastfeeding. And so I went from being a full-time mum to going into the hospital and looking after my dad for the very short time that we had with him, and then going back to being a mum. So I didn't get that roller coaster. Obviously I was devastated, but I didn't go through that roller coaster of depression and being down all the time, and I didn't get to mourn as much as I would have liked to, I guess. I just sort of thought, well, okay, this kid needs my help, he still needs milk, I've got to do what I have to do, so I just have to go back to being a mum. So I did, and I sort of it all just sort of clicked, one thing after the other. And then when I look back on it now, 2.5 years later, I was like, did I really take that much time out for myself? I probably didn't. And I do that all the time. I just look back and go, oh, but what about me? Oh, okay, we just keep moving on. So, and I guess that's the hard part about doing everything on your own as well. You just have to take it, and you just have to move forward, and you just have to keep going. And there's no time for, the ups or I guess there's just no time for feeling sorry for yourself or being stuck in those ruts. You just got to keep going, and bit of thick skin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, you're an absolute resilient powerhouse machine of all. Seriously. One final question for you. What does this year look like for you, and where you kind of focused at the minute?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because there are so many places that I need to focus. So obviously, my number one focus with the family. So we've just got a new house we're about to move into, and so that's, you know, getting them sorted and being in a new place and trying to organise all of that. And then my role at GrowCon is moving more into an operational role. So this year is going to be a huge year for me, which is good because it'll end up being opening up some further opportunities for me, maybe next year or the year after. So my career path is very set, and I'm very focused on that. But then there's also coming back into the Melbourne EA Group events and communications, because now we can meet face to face. So fingers crossed that stays for a while, and we can actually do these things. So getting those events happening, and you know, getting people aware that, hey, we're back, we can network again. So that's a huge thing. And then of course the newest business, I can't let go of that because it's new. It's got to keep the momentum going, and you know, over the holiday period I'll probably let that go, and so now I've got to pick that up. So everything's sort of going all full steam ahead all at once, and I've now got to really sort of juggle a little bit more and be a bit more systematic and strategic, I guess, with my time. But hasn't stopped me in the past. It's not going to stop me in the future, I can tell you.
I have absolutely no doubt. A normal day in the life of one Carmel Bond.
That's it. It's pretty busy.
Thank you so very much for spending this time with me. I've absolutely loved hearing your story and getting to share your journey with everyone. I mean, you are just phenomenal. I'm so happy that we got to do this. So thanks for spending the time with me, and I'll see you soon.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me, Holly.